Welcome back to Michigan Sports Media Network. You are here with your host, Jay Sweet. We have our Tigers reporter, Brad Thompson, and our Red Wings reporter, James Gullett, with me today. Now, the stuff we really came for. It is NFL tampering period today, and shit has just been flying around like we're living in a horse pen. Like, this has been insane to me, man. Like, I know tampering period is always pretty wild, but it seems like there's been more movement today, and I think it's because the addition of all the trades. There's been a decent amount of trades, but we'll get into all that in a second. First up, let's talk Lions. Obviously, Carlton Davis is gone. He signed with the Patriots, right? And I think within a half an hour, we flipped around and we replaced him with DJ Reed, the corner from the Jets. Now, I just recently posted an article about it on misportsmedia.com. Go read it. I won't sit here and list every single thing that I said in that article, and that's why you should go read it. But DJ Reed is a really good corner, consistent, good against the run, really feisty type of guy. He's very similar to Amik Robertson, but he's better, and that's why we paid him so much. The only thing I don't love about it is that they're so similar that it's almost redundant. Like, I do love the signing, don't get me wrong, and I'm not making it negative. I'm not bashing it in any ways. But that's what I said going into this. I mean, DJ Reed was probably my I would say second corner behind Trevarius Ward, but as we saw, Trevarius Ward just got $20 million per year, so he was kind of out of our range. But he was my second corner behind Ward to replace Davis, and the only reason he was number two is because of the size issue. Like, he's 5'9", he's like 180. I mean, again, it's not a bad move. It's not a bad deal. It's just that's the only negative I can really see out of it. I love the money, love the years. At 28, give him a 3-year deal, only $16 million per year. And I think it was like $32 million or $34 million guaranteed, which is not bad. I mean, that's pretty solid deal. But again, the size kind of concerns me, and the fact that him and Robertson are pretty similar kind of concerns me, but we'll see how that plays out on the field. It could help us because of the versatility now. Reed can kind of play outside, he can play inside, he can play safety if we need him to, and the same thing with Amik. So the only thing I worry about is now how much playing time will Amik get. He might be our starting slot, but I could also see them trying to put Rakestraw there or putting Rakestraw on the outside and having DJ Reed in the slot, but we'll see how that goes. We really don't even know what defense we're running right now. So a lot of these things are going to come together, as they go. But with that being said, I will pass it on to Brad to open up this panel just on the DJ Reed move, and then we'll kind of move on from there.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You want us to read about DJ Reed? See what I did there? Okay, so we have DJ Reed. I'm sorry, we have DJ Reed. We have DJ Reader. And so what are we going to get next? DJ Reediest? Yeah, sorry. Dad jokes today. I apologize. No, I think it's tremendous. I love it. I wonder what Justin Jefferson thinks of it today, because there's film, the game last year. I forgot where it was on X. I want to give it his proper credit, but I don't want to misspeak. But boy, DJ looked pretty good. All right, I believe Jefferson was 0 for 3 when he went to his side, and we all know how Meek shut down Jefferson in that last regular season game. So remember now, Meek played the outside as well, and he played it pretty damn good, okay? He just really never had his shot out there. He got his shot, and boy, oh boy, man, I love Meek. I love him. I think that he is versatile. I think he's a dog mentality, and I'm glad he's with us because I think he's actually getting a shot. I think he didn't really get a shot with Vegas, so we got a good one there. And what I noticed right before we came in here was, I believe, Reisman, who does, I believe, Pride of Detroit, he noticed, and he said that ESPN had DJ Reed as the number 1 overall player. And I'm like, wow, am I reading that right? And if that's true, guys, we got him for a song. I mean, he's just out of the 5 that signed today, I believe. I mean, he was just slightly above the corner from Baltimore that went, I forget where he went to right now. But so we're good. The stats, as far as the stats go, as far as targets, as far as this and that JC would know more. They put it side by side with Carlton Davis, and it's negligible. Okay, so congratulations, Carlton. You got your bank. You got your Super Bowl. You got your bank. We appreciate you. But shut the fuck up now that you got your money and don't come at us, okay? All right? I don't want to hear this bullshit, CJ Gardner, okay? Do it again. We play again. We're going to break your fucking jaw again. I hate that shit, okay? Sorry, I just do. You got your money. Move on, brother. All right? So, DJ Reed, like you said, versatility. I love it. I love it. Brad being Brad. And hey, turn it over to James if he's ready.
So I'm really glad that you brought up the CJ, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson stuff, because that was my first thought too. When he posted, because he tweeted after he got the money, and it was just emojis. It wasn't anything like bad, negative towards the Lions. But my first thought was, cool, let's leave it here and let's not have another Chauncey Gardner-Johnson situation, because now everyone hates him. And he came out before the Super Bowl just talking shit for no reason, it felt like at that point. So, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is a good point with that. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to James.
Thanks, guys. As usual, I'm on a little bit of an island here where I do like the move. Don't get me wrong, he's a solid player. He fills that role that we are now having in terms of a veteran corner, because we do have Rakestraw and Arnold. But I do not think this is a home run type of player. I do like the contract and all that. The player for the bang for your buck is there. So I'll give Brett Holmes credit there. And I always give Brett Holmes credit. He's probably the best GM in football. I only say probably so people can leave me alone if I said he is. But good move, solid move. But I have been, if anyone follows me on X, defending the Carlton Davis v. Reed statistical breakdown that you mentioned, Brad. Because although, don't get me wrong, he is good. I'm not crapping on the guy. I just kind of like to play devil's advocate and look at both sides of the coin. I just don't want to say, oh, he's a Lion now. He's the best thing ever. Like, let's taper expectations, but at the same time, give him his flowers, because he is not a bad player. He was the number 2 corner for the Jets. He covered number 2 receivers. So I think when the data analysis, the tit for tat, the side by side comparison between him and Davis, Davis was covering much better players than Reed was. So Davis's stats were slightly worse in terms of like completion percentage allowed and stuff like that. But Davis also had more pass breakups, more interceptions, more things like that. He also had more games missed, but at the same time, Reed is not as healthy as some people think. Reed himself has not played since becoming a starter more than 15 games in the season, besides twice. So he's normally around, sorry about that, he's normally around 14 or 15 games a year. So he doesn't miss a lot, but he's only gone 17 and 17 once. And the only other year he had more than 15 games played was 2019, and he started 0. So he was just like a backup off the bench that dabbled on the field. That year he had 0 interceptions, only 13 tackles. So he didn't get on the field much, but it does say 16 games played that season. But other than the health, like I said, I do like the money. I don't want to pay Davis $20 million. So like I would rather have Reed at, what was it, 16 if I'm not mistaken. I'd rather have Reed at 16 than Davis at 20. But I'm not going to say we upgraded at the position.
Okay, and that's a valid stance. The one thing I will say about that is the whole Carlton Davis covered the wide receiver one just is false. It's a false narrative that I've seen on Twitter a lot, and it's because people in their minds think he was our number 1 corner, so he played their number 1 wide receiver. Just was not the case. Unfortunately, he specifically played one side of the field. He did not move. So if he was playing against Justin Jefferson one snap, he wasn't the other snap. So I think that can kind of be a little not convoluted, just maybe a little confusing because you think, number one corner, he's going to go with the number one wide receiver. But if you look at the stats, and the only reason I know this is because I recently saw something about Terrion Arnold, what side of the field he played. He was exclusively, I believe, on the right, and then Carlton got hurt, and then he moved around. So what that tells me is Carlton got hurt, and Terrion was following, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to have, if you're playing Jamar Chase, you kind of want your best guy covering him the whole time. But with that being said, I kind of do agree that, maybe the stats can be misleading because of the fact that Gardner most of the time does cover the number one guy. And we played a lot more man coverage than, the Jets did last year. So I think those can kind of go hand in hand, maybe like interchangeable on that. Because I do feel like they're similar, like they're very comparable players in talent. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see Carlton as $4 million better other than the fact that he is 3 inches taller. Like I think they're pretty similar in that way. Excuse me. But with that being said, I just feel it was a, like you said, bang for your buck kind of move. We look at Terrion Arnold as our number one corner going forward, but we needed another guy that can play on the other side of him. So, at the end of the day, I do appreciate your outlook and, how you think about it because I kind of agree with the fact that most people are being too positive or they're being too negative. Like you see people talking about how we won the offseason, and then you got other people talking about how we just lost the Super Bowl. And it's like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that happened on tampering day, you fucks. But it's like the shit I'm reading sometimes is insane. Like I had to tell this one guy because he's like, the season's over. We're not going to win a Super Bowl. Brad won't fucking sign defensive ends. He won't sign the pass rush. He won't make it better. And I said, bro, free agency ain't even fucking open yet. What are you tripping for? Like, and he was just like, well, it is open. Bro, like 20 players have signed today. Like there is so many good players left that we weren't getting Josh Sweat. We just weren't. It was never going to happen. And the fact that somebody had a rumor that was going around that Josh Sweat was going to get, he was in talks with the Lions. He might have been, because I heard that too. But at the end of the day, the rumors were not true, or at least they didn't come true because he is not a Lion. He's a Cardinal. And I just personally never saw that happening. So I think a lot of people they got excited. They saw the DJ Reed move. We spent $16 million a year. And then they start hearing Josh Sweat, and then they just fucking burst at the seams. And now the fact that we didn't get him, people are just freaking out. But with that being said, moving on to another pass rusher that we will we've been kind of talking about for a while now, Trey Hendrickson. I mean, I haven't heard shit on the Trey Hendrickson front since yesterday, 2 days ago. And it sounds to me like Washington's out. Now that they traded for Laramie Tunsil, they don't really they could do it for sure. I just don't see them doing it. They already traded, what was it, a second, a third, and a fourth for Laramie Tunsil, and they kept this year too, so they could still make a move for Hendrickson, but I think they're out. That's my guess would be they're out of it. So it's probably the Falcons, a couple other teams, and us right now for Hendrickson. Now, do I think this is going to happen? No, I'm holding strong on my opinion since day one. I don't see Brad Holmes making this deal. Would I love it? Yes. Problem is we got to pay him $30 million or more per year. I don't love that. I would rather go for the pass rush by committee approach, but my favorite guy, Pat Jones, got signed by the Panthers, so can't get him anymore. But with that being said, it does sound like Trey Hendrickson is available for a second-round pick. It's just up to who wants to pay him what he wants, because after Garrett got paid, it sounds like Hendrickson wants some of that pass rusher money. So, and then moving on from that, we I guess I kind of already covered this a little bit, but can you guys shut the fuck up now? Like, oh my God, the people on Twitter that I've been seeing lately, it is just like baffling, dude. Yesterday I read a tweet where a guy said, "I've been a season ticket holder since 1963. For 63 years," he said, "if Brad Holmes doesn't get a pass rusher, I will stop paying for my tickets." 0-16 didn't do it for you, bro? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's where I get confused because I'm sitting here going, you sat through 0-16, you sat through the Matt Millen era, you sat through the Matt Patricia era, and you said, this is fine, this is dandy. But then a guy almost gets you to the Super Bowl, and you say, well, if he don't win us a Super Bowl next year, I'm out. What? Like, the logic just isn't there. It makes no sense at all. Like, and that just blows my mind. And that's all I'm gonna say about it because the shit's just ridiculous. But with that being said, to pivot to maybe a more positive thing, it looks or sounds like Von Miller or Demarcus Lawrence could be a possible potential pass rush opportunity for the Lions. Now, is this a report? Not necessarily, right? This isn't something I have been told or anything like that. This is just off of my gut feeling, okay? So, and you guys, and I'll pass it to you guys after I get over with this, but you guys might agree or you might disagree. I think Brad Holmes was never going to sign Josh Sweat. He was never going to sign Harold Landry. He didn't even think about those guys. I think he's looking at older, productive guys. Maybe they're not even that productive anymore, but he's looking at older guys he can sign for 1 year so it doesn't fuck with our cap. And that's what I like with Von Miller and Demarcus Lawrence because both of them in their primes, top tier pass rushers. They're not in their primes anymore, obviously. But what we could do is sign them for, like Von Miller, maybe a 1 year, $12 million, $14 million deal, probably similar for Lawrence. You bring him in, now he's working with a really good defensive line. He's got Aiden Hutchinson on the other side, and they could actually maybe not be their prime selves anymore, but bring back some of those flashes. And I think that's kind of the idea is do that, draft one, and then maybe sign another depth guy, and then kind of go pretty hard, pretty aggressive on draft night after, interior and edge players. But with that being said, I'll pass it over to you, James, for anything you got to add on that.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed as everyone else is that I don't want to say the pass rushers exactly dried up. There is still a few of them left, but the ones that we've been talking about over the last week have all pretty much settled into their new places or at least agreed to terms. I didn't think we would ever even call Josh Sweat. I wasn't a huge Sweat fan, but with his production, I kind of just he's out of the price range. Um, I understand that I was trying to go for like a Garrett or another big splash, but I'm like, you would have to. Look, I feel like you could find money for Garrett. I don't think Sweat's the kind of player that you dump someone else for or anything like that. Personally, he came out very nice in the playoffs, but I feel like that is more recency biased, and people have seen him play excellent over his last 4 to 5 games. If you look at his whole career, he's not bad, but he's just an average pass rusher. His stats look pretty similar to Zadarius Smith, who we just cut for what would be a lot less money. I still think there's a chance, and I heard nothing on it. Once, like you said, this is not a report or anything like that. But gut feeling, I can see Smith coming back on a cheaper deal. I know he posted goodbyes on social media and all that, but he wanted to be here. He already pre-bought the ring. He bought into the vision and everything. I don't think we've seen the last of him, but that's just my gut reaction.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought up Zadarius Smith because that's something that, I was meaning to mention that it could be possible that he comes back. Um, but like you said, with the time going by, it feels less and less likely that he will. But you never know what's going to happen. But with that being said, Brad, the floor is yours.
Alrighty, a lot to unpack here. This is way before you guys' time. In fact, it was my senior year of high school, which is biblical days back then. There was a young man. Washington Redskins won the Super Bowl with Doug Williams. So there was a running back there by the name of, I believe, Timmy Smith. All right. Now, what Timmy Smith did is he set a Super Bowl record running for over 200 yards. Okay. Guy came out of nowhere. He had a decent reputation when he was drafted, ran for over 200 yards. And you know what? You know what he did the next 3 years? Nothing. Not a gosh darn thing. Okay. So we fall in love with the flavors of the month. I do believe that Josh Sweat was a product of, first of all, the offensive line. I'm sorry, defensive line, excuse me. Defensive line, which is pretty darn special in Philly. Okay. Just like Timmy Smith was pretty, lived off of the Hogs in that game. And the Hogs back in the day was by far the best offensive line. So Josh Sweat, make your money. God bless you. I can live. I love you. Make it. You're never going to see it. You might see a first-round playoff with Arizona. Congratulations. Whoop-de-doo. Okay? I think I would not be surprised, and I'm in the minority here, I wouldn't be surprised if Trey Hendrickson isn't moved. I just have that feeling. Let's just remember, Myles Garrett was leaving no matter what. I'm leaving. I'm taking a piece. I'm putting an article out in the paper. Goodbye, Cleveland. Well, guess what? He mind fucked the Browns. Okay, and he turned it into $40 million. Very smart. I didn't think they raised that or produced that many great scholars at A&M. I'm surprised he actually paid attention to Econ 101. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. It just could be a leverage thing, but then again, the Bengals have the worst front office in the NFL. Their dumbasses went out and said, we're going to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And then they literally pissed down their leg when they saw that Garrett contract. So you're screwed by. So maybe they can find room for Hendrickson. I don't know, but I'm just not sold. And I definitely don't want to trade any draft capital for him. He's 30 years old. Jace, I agree with you. We've got a stud. We got the defensive player of the year before he got hurt, Aiden Hutchinson. Okay, he's going to make anybody look good on that other side. All right. So I like the one-year deals. Remember, we've got to sign our dudes. I am going to pound the table for that. I don't want to lose anybody. I don't want to lose Branch. I don't want to lose Campbell. I don't want to lose Port. I don't want to lose Jamal. I don't want to lose those guys. I really don't. Those guys are the core. That's why we are here. Okay, let's dance with the devil that we know and not dance with the devil we don't know. Okay, like Von Miller at 1 year, like Lawrence at 1 year, like Chase Young at 2 years. Okay, I know he did it in New Orleans. He was okay in New Orleans. He was okay. 1 year, 2 years, draft a guy. All right. Davenport will do okay. It was a good signing. Speaking of Twitter, I fucking love. Oh my God, all they did was Marcus Davenport. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Oh my God. Dude, Twitter. All right, Twitter is like politics. The Lions are like politics. You've got the far right wackadoos. You got the far left wackadoos. It doesn't matter. They'll never meet in the fucking middle. All right, this is not bipartisanship fandom we have in Detroit. All right. So don't get caught up because just my opinion. All right. Don't get caught up in these bullshit things. I swear to God, it's usually Billy Bob down at the end of the bar on his ninth, Pabst Blue Ribbon, just going one day, oh yeah, man, yeah, Super Bowl, and then he's hung over the next, going, man, fuck this team. Okay. So I'll get off my soapbox now. So let's let it play out. Last time I checked, gentlemen, Brad Holmes is pretty good. I'm going to let him cook.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And all I really had to say back to these people was two-time executive of the year back to back. That's all I'm saying. That's really all I got on that one. But I'm really glad you brought up Chase Young because he's another guy that I think would make sense on a 2, maybe even a 3-year deal if we can get him for the right amount of money. It just depends on the money, as everything does these days. But with that being said, I also kind of agree with the Trey Hendrickson point because I could see a way that he's not traded. And obviously, I think they have to trade T. Higgins. You know what I'm saying? I think they have to make a decision. So I feel like with him being on a franchise tag and they're not really going to be able to come to a conclusion, I think it's a little bit easier to replace a guy like Higgins right now in that offense than it would be to replace a guy like Trey Hendrickson. And I mean, they could even go like wide receiver with their second round pick and be fine. I don't think they really need to go out and make a splash, to replace T. Higgins. And then they could probably get more for T. Higgins than what they would have gotten for Hendrickson. So I kind of agree with that point that he might not even be moved at all. But with that being said, that is all I've got for the Lions so far. So let's go ahead and pivot to the NFL as a whole. Now, I'm going to try to make this kind of quick because it's a shit show. Today was just insane. The one thing I will say is, don't forget who your daddy is, Chicago. Just remember, back to back, baby. You win the offseason, we win the division. Yeah, belt to ass. That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's just, I'm so over seeing these Bears fans on Twitter. Oh, we won the offseason. We're going to win the Super Bowl. When the Jaguars won the offseason like 9 times in a row, and they didn't do shit with it. I mean, let's be real here. Teams don't get Super Bowls by paying a bunch of money in free agency. It just doesn't happen that way. Now, with that being said, I like the trades that they did. They ate a little bit more money for Jonah Jackson than what I would have liked, right? The Drew Dalman one is, I mean, yeah, he's a good player, but he's below average in pass protection. He's a good run blocker, but he's below average in pass protection. Aleem McNeil, go ahead and feast, buddy, because you got him twice a year. And then they did some things on defense. They signed, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, Deo from Indianapolis, the big defensive lineman. And then they also signed Grady Jarrett, who, was on a Super Bowl team, well, a Super Bowl losing team, but he was on a team that made it to the Super Bowl, and he's been a really good interior defensive lineman for a few years now. Atlanta, unfortunately, had to let him go, but the Bears are actually doing pretty well in free agency. We'll see how that pans out on the field, though, because Deo is one of those guys that has been pretty good for a season, right? And, we'll see if he's really worth that $16 million a year. And then you have a guy like Grady Jarrett who's past his prime, and they paid him like he's in his prime. So give him a year, he'll still be good, but he won't be that top tier player that he was before. Now, with that being said, the Vikings have made some good moves too. They re-signed Aaron Jones. They added a corner. I know they did some other stuff and I'm forgetting it, but one thing they did do was let Sam Darnold walk. Now he is in Seattle. That's something we'll talk about in a second. But the Packers have also been doing some work in free agency. They signed the number one guard, or at least the number one paid guard in free agency this time around. Gave him a boatload of money. They also signed Nate Hobbs, who is one of my favorite corners for, like more of a depth type of signing. And it sounds like the Packers might not be trading Jair Alexander after all. I think that's kind of bullshit. I think that's smoke to try to get people to trade for him because they probably weren't getting anything for him. He's, due $20+ million a year. But I don't know. It's just one of those things. And they did, what else did they do? I think that's all that the Packers did today. But with that being said, we will move on to NFL in general. Obviously, a lot has happened, and I'm just going to kind of go down this list rapid fire. Sam Darnold, like I talked about before, he got a 3-year, $100 million deal to go to Seattle, which we kind of called after the Geno Smith trade. I know, Brad, you weren't here when that happened, but Geno Smith got traded live on the show. And that was the first thing I said was, I bet they're going after Sam Darnold now. And it makes sense. I literally, James, you can agree with me or disagree if I'm wrong, or agree with me if I'm right. I literally said the contract. I said 3 years, $35 million a year. I was like, it makes sense. Geno Smith wants 40, 45. Why not get a pick for him and get a younger player that's pretty much the same for about 10 million less? That one was like, you couldn't have called it better. And then, of course, Josh Sweat, like we talked about, signed with the Cardinals. He got $19 million a year. Milton Williams got absolutely paid $26 million a year. There we go. He got too much money, I think. It was all said and done going to the Panthers, but the Patriots came in and got that done. We talked about the Drew Dalman situation. Chris Godwin went back to Tampa Bay. Kind of everyone thought that was going to happen. Carlton Davis ended up going to New England, which we didn't really mention that on the podcast, but that was definitely one of the teams. It just kind of made sense. You know, they have our old D-line coach there as their new defensive coordinator, and they have the most money. So it just made the most sense, I think, for those reasons. Travarius Ward went to the Colts. He got $20 million a year, like we mentioned earlier. Kind of sucks. He got a little more money than I thought he would. With how I hate to say this, he did play pretty bad last year, but with everything he was going through, you know, it's kind of understandable why he played that way. And then we have Trevon Moehrig, the safety from the Las Vegas Raiders. He signed with the Panthers on a 3-year deal, which I thought pretty good deal. I honestly wasn't even aware that he was a free agent. So, you know, that's just one of those things. Paulson Adebo, I always mess that up. Paulson Adebo, he signed a 3-year, $54 million deal with the New York Giants, averaging $18 million a year. He was one of my favorites, but for $18 million a year, I think I'll take Reed. I really like Paulson, but he's got some injury issues. You know, he broke his femur last year, so you know some things going on with that. And let's see here. Justin Fields to the Jets. We called that one. We were on that pretty much right away. I feel like that was maybe last Monday or Wednesday's pod that we had brought that up. And I feel like that's a good fit. $20 million a year, though, is kind of nuts. I did not see that coming. I figured he would sign for maybe 10 a year max. But that's just one of those things. Jordan Lewis, the Amon-Ra hater, just got paid $10 million a year to go to Jacksonville. So he's doing pretty well, not having to play against Amon-Ra twice a year, or I guess he didn't have to play us twice a year, but not having to play against Amon-Ra next year. But with that being said, that's where we'll kind of stop for now, and I'll open it up to you guys. Brad, I'll hand it off to you first.
Okay, well, I want to pay tribute to the greatest Detroit sports fan there is, and he passed away recently, Andy Isaac. You couldn't find a better man and better sports fan. So in memory of Andy Isaac, fuck the Bears. Okay. Now you can tell, all right, that the Bears are knowing that they're on a rookie contract with Caleb Williams. Okay, you can just smell it by what they've signed. All right. So they've signed Jonah Jackson, history of injuries. Am I wrong? Okay. All right. They've signed Thuney, all right, who's on the opposite side of 30, who's only on 1 year right now. Okay. They signed Dalman, who couldn't pass protect fucking Lady Gaga. All right. That's great. I'll give him credit for the defensive lineman signing. That was great. Whatever his name is, Oingo, Boingo, whatever. Okay. That was a great signing. But last time I checked, and if my memory serves me right, I saw it just a little while ago, Ryan Poles is still the general manager of the Chicago Bears. Just want to make sure he is. Did he become a fucking genius overnight? No, I don't think so. And I'm sure little boy Ben, all right, I'm sorry, I don't like him for what he said about Goff. So little boy Ben, has he ever proved that he is a terrific talent evaluator? I don't know. How much did he sit in those rooms, you know, with DC and with Brad Holmes and say, I'm identifying Jameson Williams. I'm identifying Amon-Ra. Holmes was there. I'm identifying, you know, blah, blah, blah. Okay? He didn't. All right? So let's pump the brakes on this. Okay? Bears offseason. Dude, congratulations. It's time to get him a fucking trophy. Okay? Put it on top of the Sears fucking tower. Light the Sears tower up at night saying, we win the offseason. Okay? I'm not buying it. All right? Grady and Garrett, I'm glad they have convalescent homes, good ones on Lake Michigan shore in Chicago, because he's got one foot in the door there. Okay? And this really is it a little vitriol for the Bears? Fuck yeah, it is. But as a take it outside? No. Guys, no. Okay? Did they get better to beat us, to be better than Green Bay, to be better than Minnesota, to be better than us next year, the year after? I don't believe so. I could be wrong. Okay? So when those contracts are up, they gone. Okay? They can restart a little bit, but guess what? You got to start all over again. So it's a cyclical. Lather, rinse, repeat. Okay? Not buying it, but you know what? If they do have success, we got to beat them. Okay? I'm not worried about our ball club. Okay? So I ain't going to worry about their ball club. Play it on the field. Okay? Play it on the field. All right? As far as the other teams go, spending here, spending there, spending everywhere. Again, before you guys' time, but there was something known as the G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip. Okay? So everybody had to have that G.I. Joe with a Kung Fu grip. They had to have it. They had to have it. They had to have it no matter what. Okay? All right? Wasn't there. Okay? In the wasn't there, so they were impetuous, right? They were like, well, I gotta have something, man. I gotta have something. Everybody else is getting something. Oh my god! So they go and they grab Army Mike. Well, you know what? When you put Army Mike in the bathtub, Army Mike's made out of wood, and Army Mike just bloats up and he explodes. Okay, so you didn't want to fucking wait for your GI Joe with a kung fu grip. All right, you had to have your Army Mike, and guess what? Army Mike sank to the bottom. Just like these teams are going to. And for the dudes that got paid, well, we'll say when we knew you won because you're going to, hey, Carlton, bye-bye. I don't care about Vrabel. Bye-bye. You ain't good enough. New England's not good enough. And anybody who signs with the Jaguars, well, fuck off. So with that, I digress.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Brad, and I'm really glad that you did that tribute there. I actually planned something for the end of the show for Andy, so we will also be doing something. There we go. It actually worked in our favor that time. But we will be planning something, just a small tribute to him at the end of the show. But with that being said, James, floor is yours.
Yeah, I was debating on talking to you guys but before the show started about doing some kind of tribute for him. So it was wonderful that it just kind of happened organically. So much to unpack there. I'll start with in the division. The I'll start with the Bears in tribute to Andy. Fuck the Bears, always. They are making, in my opinion, I don't want to per se call them panic moves, but they were sitting on a ton of cap space, and I feel like they were a kid in a candy store at Christmas, and they're just like, oh, I'll take one of these, I'll take one of these, I'll take one of these. Don't know if it's any good or not, but I'll take one of those. And I was, I don't want to quite say bragging, but I was giving them their flowers. They made several good moves last week. I do question some of the more recent ones, though. And it goes to saying, I feel like after having a nice couple days, a nice trade, a nice free agent pickup, whatever, Proles is settling down to what he is, and that's not a very good general manager. As much as I do really like the Tooney trade, and it sucks because he's a really good player, but for my lifetime, he might be the even before he takes the field, the best Bears offensive lineman in my lifetime. Because I don't remember any Bears O lineman that I can just pick off the top of my head and be like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Everyone remembers the Urlacher, the Peanut Tillman, all those guys, Matt Forte, et cetera, et cetera. But Tooney's a beast. Thankfully, they only have him for 1 year. If they do extend him, he's going to be expensive, so at least he's going to hit their books hard. Jackson, heck of a guard when healthy, often hurt. And like we said in the prior podcast, although I expressed interest in him coming back, it was not at that contract. So although they got better, they got a lot more expensive. Grady Jarrett is not what he used to be. That is a name that NFL fans will say ooh and ah because he's a name, but it's kind of to me like signing Odell Beckham Jr. Like you can ooh and ah at his name, but he's not really going to help your football team too much. And they gave him 3 years. The defensive lineman they signed, which, as you said, I'm not going to even attempt that name. I think that's basically throwing money down the drain. He had 3 sacks last year, and they signed him for $16 million per year. So, I mean, glad we didn't do it, but congrats to them, I guess. Green Bay, they got Brooks, the best guard on the market. They paid him like the best guard on the market, though. So it's one of those things where, and I'm not trying to play both sides of the field here, but I like as much as I was trying to taper expectations with Reed, he is a good player. I'm glad we got him for 16 million, not 20 or some of this other money or 25 like Horn. I'm not going to start on that one. Um, then I just saw, as you were talking, Jace, that the Vikings signed. Who was it? It was a player that
Ryan Kelly.
was Ryan Kelly, yep, center from the Colts. He was someone that I kind of had as an under the radar guy. For my interest in him was going to be as a backup. He's probably going to start for Minnesota, but it does still suck to see someone that I kind of had my eye on go to a division rival. But it is what it is. As Brad said, Brad Holmes knows what he's doing. Let him cook. I don't see a big splash. Um, somewhat jumping back, I would love uh, Henderson trade or Hendrickson trade, but that's just not his MO. As much as he's come from the Rams, he's come from the FB's Picks organization. He's never really done too much in terms of trading away the picks for veteran talent. He's more along the lines of trading up within the draft itself, like he did with JMO, trading up 20 spots in the first round. So when he does say F those picks, it's still for other picks and other young players. So part of me is curious on, and it's something that no one can answer until draft day itself. If the right player falls, mostly an edge, in my opinion, if he will do the same thing and kind of jump up there again. I have my eyes on a couple edges. Only one of them that I would be willing to trade up for because the rest would be long gone. Everyone wants the guy from Penn State, but obviously, who doesn't? But I really like Mike Green out of Marshall. I know he had a couple off the field issues. I know the Lions historically stay away from those guys, but when the talent meets the place where we should be drafting, his off the field issues might drop him down right in our laps. We might not even have to trade up for him. But he is extremely productive. He is, in my opinion, exactly what we're looking for in the opposite side of Hutchinson. He's got a motor, he's got power and speed moves. And our answer to our pass rushing woes may not be another $30 million player. And I have to take myself back because I've been all in on trying to get one of these other pass rushers. I was kind of narrow-minded with my view there, and after taking a step back, I'm just like, you know what? He knows what he's doing. As much as I like to think I know what I'm doing, sometimes he actually does. So there's that. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention in terms of division was who else did Minnesota sign today? But oh, I'm sorry, it was out of division. I have it pulled up here. The Laramie Tunsil trade is something else I wanted to touch on. I don't know if you had a spot for it on later on in the show. And it was a trade, not a free agent signing. But I don't know if I've ever seen a player of such a key important position like left tackle get traded for not even a first round pick. Like I love Decker, but I might have wanted to do the same kind of trade. He would be expensive, but in my opinion, he's the second best left tackle in the whole league. And to get, also in my opinion, the second most valuable position, second best player at the second most valuable position, and you still keep all your first round picks, that is something. Commanders did a hell of a trade right there, protecting Jaden Daniels between getting Deebo Samuel, obviously keeping McLaren. They re-signed uh, Ertz. Uh, buffing up the O line. They're gonna be a team to watch this upcoming season.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I planned on talking about all the trades at the end here. So
My
I
bad.
will, no, you're good. I will save my 2 cents just because I had this next thing. Kevin Zeitler is not a Lion yet. Okay, and I am getting more and more worried as the hours tick because we saw that Aaron Banks deal, right? And he got money, bro. He got over 20 million a year. Or no, I think it was 19. I think he got 19. But regardless, Zeitler took a huge pay cut last year to play for us, right? And he was one of the best guards in the league last year. I think he might leave. I mean, I really don't like saying that out loud, man, but I really think Zeitler might be on his way out. I don't know where he would go. I could see Kansas City. It just depends, like money wise, who's willing to pay him probably $15 million next year. I mean, he took 6.5 to play for us, and he should have probably taken 12. So just, keep that in mind that I personally thought Kevin Zeitler was like a lock to return, but who knows at this point. And with that being said, though, we will pivot to a couple signings that happened before today, before the tampering period actually opened. We have the DK Metcalf trade where he was traded to Pittsburgh, and he was traded for a second-round pick, and he got $33 million per year. Harold Landry signed with the Patriots for $16 million per year, and they can do that all day. That's a terrible signing. I will say it now, and I will say it after the season. Terrible signing. He has been, I saw a stat earlier today, he is last in pass rush win rate in the entire NFL. That's crazy, okay? I know we looked up his PFF grade, and he's been pretty good against the run, but $16 million, man. I know he's young, and I know he's going back with his old D-line coach, but that's a rough one. And then Davante Adams to the Rams. I think I might have been the first person to say that. I'm just going to say that now. I said that, I think, on last Monday or something like that. It was right after he got cut. I think he got cut on the show, and then I mentioned the Rams as being a possibility because everybody kind of assumed he was going with Rodgers, which I did too at first, but reading the tea leaves, it felt like he was more willing to go to a West Coast team. And then, obviously, the Myles Garrett deal. I know we mentioned it a bunch of times, but he got paid. And all that does is hurt the Lions because now we have to, give Aiden Hutchinson a big deal. I'm really hoping he's going to take between that Crosby, Garrett, probably like 36, 38 million. Not try to overdo that Garrett deal just because he kind of understands that was more of a one-off than anything. And you could say Aiden's not on his level yet. You could. I know he had a great year, but he got hurt in an injury that he might not be the same from. And I think that might be why Brad Holmes and company are kind of holding off on that deal. Khalil Mack obviously re-signed with the Chargers before free agency opened this morning. 1 year, $18 million, fully guaranteed. I think the fully guaranteed is why he took $18 million. He was projected to get between 20 and 23. So I don't really know if anybody else would have given him that fully guaranteed deal. And then this is kind of a random one, but Javon Kinlaw got signed by the Commanders today, right? And oh my God, he got overpaid. Like, oh my God, I've never seen someone get paid for being a good draft prospect before, but he did it. He hasn't done anything in the NFL from what I've seen. He's been injured a lot. Can't really seem to stay at a good weight for his play. He's just a big old dude. And they said, you know what? That's worth $12.5 million or whatever they gave him. I think it was 3 years for 45. So pretty rough signing there. But with that being said, the Laramie Tunsil trade, I'm really glad you brought that up because that trade is what I was talking about earlier when I said Washington is most likely out of the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes. So it kind of helps us. But again, like you said, it's kind of a head-scratching move because not only did you get a premium left tackle for a second, a third, and a fourth, and then I think they got a fourth with Tunsil as well. But they got a good player for a steal. But at the same time, I kind of get it from Houston's perspective, right? Because they just went ahead and basically, I would say he probably was going to want like $35 million a year, if I'm being honest. Laramie Tunsil, I don't know if you guys know this or not. Laramie Tunsil has reset the tackle market every time he's gotten re-signed. And we're talking by a big portion. Like, he'd probably want $5 million more than the next guy. And it's just hard right now to do that. And I think the Texans moved on from him in hopes that they can draft somebody this year to take that spot. But with that being said, head scratcher still, even though the money, it makes sense financially, but with where they are right now as a football team and what they have, it's going to be a hard one to get over. So, it's just one of those things that we'll see what happens. We'll see what their plan is, but I don't know how you can have a plan to replace a guy like that and not get a first round pick in return, like you said. So with that being said, I will pass it over to you, Brad, and let you have the floor on the last couple of trades and things that I covered.
Yeah, with Tunsil, it's terrific for Washington. Don't get me wrong; they didn't give up, number one, but they gave up a little bit of draft capital. You always like to see that. Teams always want to stay young. I don't get it with Houston. I saw C.J. Stroud running for his life last year. Sometimes I would like to think that Houston thinks at least that their Super Bowl windows cracking open, maybe open even. I mean, they completely. I mean, they trounced. They absolutely trounced. Jim Harbaugh and the LA Chargers. So you got a young franchise quarterback that, quite frankly, I think took a step back last year. Then you're going to take away his right arm, not literally because he throws with it, but you're going to take away Laramie Tunsil. I don't see the logic behind it, especially not getting a number one. Okay, you don't get a number one for him, man. You just took your left tackle away from a young franchise quarterback. So be it. With the Patriots and with the signings and with, like you said, the Harold Landry, everybody says it's the old chicken and the egg, what came first, but it's also the Brady Belichick kind of thing. Now, stay with me here. Brady went and won a Super Bowl without Belichick. Fair enough. Okay. But Belichick had a big say on who they signed free agency, and they had a big say on who they drafted. All right, so I think that shows right there with Belichick being gone. I don't think the Patriots have drafted well. I don't think they've signed free agents well. So you know what, give Brady the fact that he did it on the field, but give Belichick the credit because he did it in the front office. He never overpaid. All right, he collected picks, never overpaid, and he went after the free agents when he needed to go after the free agents. Okay, obviously he was the man in the room. Scott Pioli was just an assistant. Okay, because I don't see anything the Patriots are doing right now that's any good. All right, I just don't. As far as Davante Adams goes, you got ESPN out there saying, "Ooh, look at this offense now." Well, cool. Davante Adams is still good. But how much better is he than Cooper Kupp? I'll give him that he's better, but how much better? I see this, the fire flame emoji, and oh my God, the Rams! Oh, you got to stop their offense, dude. So yeah, he's good. I don't think he deserves all that. I don't think he's gonna be looking over Matthew Stafford's shoulder because that's what Kelly does. All right, sorry, bad joke, but hey, it's true. So as far as trades go, I'm not that big of a fan of trades. I don't like giving up capital. I really don't. And usually when you make a guy a trade, you're going to end up having to re-sign him too. So you're losing your capital and then you're also taking a cap hit. All right. So again, I think free agency is you sprinkle in the free agents. Okay. I don't think you build with trades with free agents or overspend for free agents. For instance, I could have a tangent. Well, great for that. For the Green Bay Packers, overpaying for their guard because guess what? You're going to be the new Robert Hunt of last year. Okay, because you're basically an above average guard that got paid like a Pro Bowler, and you're not. So let's all take a step back. I don't think we're going to be able to keep Kevin Zeitler. That's fine with me. You've got a Will Freeze out there who's younger. If Zeitler wants $12 million a year, let's give Freeze that. Let's give Freeze a little more. I think that he's a young upcoming tackle. Guard for Indy. But yeah, as far as the trades go, I'm not a big fan of the trades. And Houston, we have a problem. So
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I will somewhat disagree with the Bill Belichick drafting thing, only because some of his picks were just fucking horrible. I like N'Keal Harry, but when he drafted him in the first round, and then he didn't, and I still thought he might be good, and then he just didn't pan out at all. And then he takes that guard over a plethora of great players. It's just, I feel like what Bill does really well is he hits on those middle rounds, and that's kind of what keeps them going. And, obviously you can't hit on every pick, so, not everybody can be Brad Holmes, you know. So it's just one of those things that, like, I feel like he did really well in those mid to late rounds, and that's kind of where he made his bread and butter because, like you said, he was really good at, putting guys in the right position. And then he also did a really good job at letting guys walk, like you said. So, but with that being said, I will pass it over to you, James, if you got anything to add.
The only thing I really have to add to all of that is Zeitler. I want him back desperately. I know he's older. I know his best eventually father time catches up with everyone, unless you're Tom Brady. But he played great for us. He came cheap. I'm willing to give him 12. Granted, it's not up to me, but I am. Uh, in going back, touching on the Burke signing for Green Bay, it is 19.25 million per year. So even with Zeitler at 12, if that is the number, both of our guards combined would be, assuming Mahogany's the other one that we're playing, both of our guards combined would be cheaper than him by himself. So we would have like the win now move with the Zeitler. Obviously, maybe draft someone in the middle rounds. I don't think the guys that we've already drafted in terms of development are remotely ready. I know we have Kobe Saldahl, who I don't want to rag on him too much. He was a developmental prospect from the beginning. In his spot starts, he's looked not good. Um, there's plenty of room for growth, but I just don't see it. And then with our tackle, I am spacing on his name, forgive me. We drafted him in the fourth round after trading up for him last year.
Giovanni Manu.
Yes, at Manu. He played left tackle prior to him being drafted. I think he will move inside to guard. That's just my 2 cents. He is someone I don't think it's talked about enough because he is a developmental prospect. As of this point, he's, no offense to him, but a nobody. But he is an absolute immaculate ball of clay for Hank Fairley to mold. I don't know if you guys have seen him in person. I have when I went to training camp. He's over 300 pounds, and I think just judging by looking at him, I think he's under like 5 or 6% body fat. The dude is pure muscle. Eventually, I know he said in an interview when he was playing in BC, he could just kind of bully people around. He didn't have to worry about hand placement and whatnot. He would just out physical them. And obviously in the NFL, you can't do that. These guys are too good. So as long as he can get his stuff together, he's learning from the best. I think potentially he can slot in there. I would like to see him take some preseason reps and stuff at guard, because even when they have used him in preseason, it has been at tackle. I don't think that's where his future is. Just my 2 cents on that. But I don't know if he's going to be ready enough for us to lose a Zeitler or anything like that currently. So with that being said, we're going to have to do something on this O-line, even if it's bring Zeitler back, which is my preferred option. If that's not the case, what is? That's my question I would like to leave up to the Lions. Although, as we've mentioned a few times on here, I have 100% faith in Brad Holmes. I have seen some people on Twitter, I don't want to say saying he's in the hot seat or anything, but questioning him, and I just find that baffling. Like, what has he done other than turn us around that makes you question him? But Till then, that's that on that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I will just keep doing this. NFC North champions. That never fucking happened before. Ever. Not once. We've done it twice. We went 15-2 and won the fucking division back to back. That's never happened. Brad Holmes did that. I think, you know what I mean? I don't even understand. Like Brad said earlier, these are just the drunk old dude at the end of the counter that is fucking shit-faced and doesn't know what he's talking about. And he just says shit because it sounds good right now. It's like, you're upset because shit isn't going the way you think it should go right now today. I'm overweighting. Oh, no. Then move on. Go somewhere else. I'd hate to be the guy that gave up the one time we were good. Like, it just makes no sense. But with that being said, I would like to dedicate the ending of this podcast to Mr. Andy Isaac. Like Brad said earlier, really just a epitome of a Detroit sports fan. He really kept some people afloat throughout, especially COVID, with a lot of his, content in his videos. And it will always be #Fatterday every Saturday. Just because Andy Isaac, you meant that much to Detroit and Michigan sports in general. So with that being said, I would like you guys to join me in a chant to end this podcast. Let's all chant, "Fuck the Bears." You guys ready?
I got you.
3, 2, 1. Fuck the
the
Bears.
Bears.
Fuck the Bears. Fuck the Bears. There we go, baby. There we go. I love it, guys. It sucks that, things like this happen. But I think we can all kind of agree that, cancer's probably taken someone from each of us. And if it hasn't, thank God that you haven't had to deal with that. But I think most people can, live with this and understand that, things happen, not always for a good reason. But hopefully Andy is somewhere where he is healthier and happier and gets to watch his Lions win a Super Bowl. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for watching. You know where to find me at JSoSweet. Find Brad at BT8Ball, and find James at Gullet_James. And you can find us all at MI Sports Media and at misportsmedia.com. And with that said, we'll see you on the next one.